Hey there, Jemima here from the Willcox Collective. So we have the awesome Oli Kane here from Enjoy the View, who we're very proud to say we're part of the collective as well. And so today we're talking about a really interesting topic. Today's topic, we're going to discuss the idea of raw versus polished video, and specifically we're talking about our experiences about when clients come to us and ask for video and the type of video. So first off, let's talk about what raw and polished is. So Ollie, tell me what your opinion of what a raw video is and what a polished video is.
So I think it's sort of quite difficult I think it depends on everyone's definition of what raw is. So to me, raw would be something that comes straight out of the camera. Mm-hmm. So a camera like what we're filming on today, it looks quite nice. But if I haven't done any editing on it, I haven't sort of added any music, haven't added any titles, that's what I'd class as raw. Mm-hmm. But I know that a lot of people, they would class a raw video as something that's maybe come off the phone, something that's a little bit shaky, something that it's not perfect kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think there's two sort of definitions to raw. And I think that my definition of raw is that sort of out of camera but not too much sort of post editing on it.
No, I agree with you there. It's about when you're shooting something and then you've taken it off and there's a little or no editing to come for there, so it's coming up there. And then the polished idea is, I suppose, for us as video creators and people that come to us for that high quality nature, it's about that quality of film and quality of editing, and then all the other bits and pieces that maybe are not so accessible to individuals without that kind of equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's things like licensed soundtracks, for example. That's a big thing that most clients aren't going to have access to. They might, if they've sort of recorded something on their phone, they'll go on Google and they'll type in free music or something, and they'll get quite a limited choice, where with someone like us, we've got access to thousands of songs. That really helps with the polish thing. It's things like animation on the titles, colour grading on the video, so it's got nice colour, it looks really nice. Even things like sound quality as well, like today we're recording on specialised mics, where with a phone you wouldn't necessarily have that. So I think that all adds into the polish thing, and I guess that's sort of where your difference is between your raw, that you'd maybe not pay much money for, if anything, or you've got your organic content creation that a client would do, and then your polish sort of stuff that you and me do, where we've got all the equipment, we can create that polished feel and just make sure that everything's perfect for a client. So I think that's the difference between the two there.
No, I completely agree with you. It's about kind of raw shot there, ready, gone, done, put away, completely done. And then the polished stuff is where there's a bit more thought and lead into it, about kind of the brand aspect of it, making sure it matches with the brand as well. But what do you think? What kind of video do you prefer? Do you like shooting stuff straight away without editing? Would you want something with a higher quality? So do let us know in the comments. But one thing I thought would be an interesting discussion point to talk to you about is that with raw videos, there are certain things like trends this year we've noticed, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, videos are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. There's not much editing happening. Do you think that possibly those raw videos are giving a more authentic and more that kind of view for people? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think that, I've certainly seen over the last year that clients are probably preferring to have more short videos than one really long one, and I think that's it goes with like the trends on social media at the moment, where everyone just wants to be on social media all the time. I think lockdown's it's increased that sort of need for people to be on social media all the time and just showing off what they're doing. And I think we're kind of seeing that with clients now, that they want not necessarily like your full 2-minute polished videos of every week, but they just want sort of 20 seconds of them talking to camera about a certain topic, or telling them about what's going on in their shop or something like that. But it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's kind of got a nice look to it still. So that's something that I've sort of seen. But I think that
I share your opinion on that. There have been times where clients are asking for content that looks homemade or raw, but still is professional and still is short, because I think that's one thing we've noticed about the consumers, the clients are noticing that people's attention spans are really short and they want to have that punch and that dopamine hit of content over content after content. And I think the raw videos are very interesting. It might seem like that because they look like they've been made by somebody, they're relatable. They've been created, like they can be achieved by everybody else. And then that leads me on to kind of looking at the idea of kind of polished videos, the kind of stuff that we might make. do you think polished videos are coming across a bit too polished and may look like an ad and put people off?
I think it's a real sort of fine line that you have to tread at the moment with creating that content. So I think you can still create a polished video, and I think that's where the trend is going to go, that people are currently creating videos on their phone because it's easy, it's accessible. We've not been able to go out and sort of work with people over the last 18, well, not necessarily the last 18 months, but certainly 18 months ago you weren't able to go out and work with people, so everyone was just creating their content from home. But now they're coming out of lockdown, there's a bit more budget available. They are sort of seeing that this organic, sort of authentic content that they were creating during lockdowns worked really well. But now let's up the production levels a little bit, let's have some nicer audio, let's have a little bit nicer colour. And I guess that's kind of where people like you and me come in, that we've got the experience of creating these longer form videos, not necessarily like documentary style things, but sort of a 2-minute promotional video that you'd usually create. Clients now want, rather than a 2-minute promotional video, they sort of want 3 or 4 sort of 20-second videos. And it looks really nice with all their branding on. I think that seems to be where clients are going, rather than sort of creating that content that's... I've completely lost my train of thought there.
But so we're talking about kind of videos that are really short. I mean, it's kind of like when we go in and we do a day and we shoot a day's worth of content, instead of us creating something kind of creating something with really high production values, it's very chunked into tiny bits of content. I think maybe, I don't know, there's an element of us needing to maybe educate our clients about what they can have and what they can use their video for, with us having that understanding of what the consumers are looking for. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that every sort of client will have a different need. Like a business to business client, they're not going to have the same needs as a local restaurant kind of thing. And I think that what I am seeing, and certainly as we came out of lockdown last year, the first lockdown, the clients that I were initially working with, it started off as sort of those one-off promotional videos, but sort of 2 months after the real easing of lockdown, most of my clients were wanting to do a content day where not necessarily you'd go in and sort of film with them for a day to create one promotional video, but you'd go in and you'd sort of create sort of four or five sort of short length videos. And I think that's kind of now where I've sort of started to move towards, because that is what clients are wanting. It works a lot better. They've kind of got that consistent flow of video, and when you mix that in with photos as well, especially for platforms like Instagram, a lot of my sort of clients that I'm working with, they're using Instagram and LinkedIn, so they're both quite visual platforms. I think like LinkedIn, you perform pretty well if you've got photos and videos on your feed rather than just blocks of text. So I think that sort of having a mix of like videos that are sort of short and sharp but quite regular, so you've got them in a bank, and then a mix of photos as well works quite nicely for them. And I think that's a sort of change in trends that I've seen even over the last year.
It's still having that element of the video content. The style may have changed with how short it is, but it's still having that consistent content going out that's, you know, I mean, how do you feel about Instagram announcing they're not a photo platform anymore? They've moved.
Well, I absolutely love it as a video producer. But yeah, I mean, sort of things like Instagram Reels, I mean, at the moment, so I mean, I've got one client of mine that is sort of getting sort of 5k views on the Instagram Reel, and it's like, that's an interesting one as well, because what I do with them is I produce sort of like a 2-minute video, and they cut out little sort of 10 to 20 second clips out of that, and they use that for their Instagram Reels. So it's really interesting to see how clients are now starting to repurpose their videos. Like, they're thinking ahead as well as to, look, we'll create this longer form video, but within that longer form video we'll have this and this that we can take out to use on different platforms. And I think that, again, it all comes back to lockdown. Is people have been able to sort of sit back, sort of take stock of everything that they've sort of been doing the last few years in terms of marketing themselves. They've probably gone away and sort of watched a few YouTube videos, learnt about how they can better use these platforms. And now you've got some clients that are really well educated on how to use the content that we create. So it makes it a lot easier for us, but it also, I think our value becomes a lot more important to them. I feel like I'm not sort of going into a meeting with a client and thinking, am I going to get this work anymore? It is like the client sees the value in sort of video content, and they know what they want ahead of time. They know it's not going to be a 2-minute promotional video anymore. They know that it's sort of 3 to 5 videos. They want the sort of short form pieces.
That's interesting, because I mean, what would you say, let's take the raw video style that's really been popularised, and I say we can say that the lockdown and being at home has increased the number of videos people are putting out there because they can't go out and do work with other people or use equipment they may not have. I mean, what would you say the pros of those types of videos are?
I think that the pros of those, and I'm kind of going to put this on sort of a platform basis. So for me, I watch a lot of my content's consumed through Instagram. A lot of my clients use Instagram, so I think it's a really good platform for video content now. And I think that the real benefit of sort of those raw videos that you're recording on your phone, probably in portrait mode as well, as a videographer, you don't always want to recommend it, but the real benefit of raw videos is that you can upload them to your stories on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's such an interactive platform. I mean, I'll go through my stories sort of 2 or 3 times a day. If I see sort of someone post something that I'm sort of resonating with, sort of feeling the same way about, I'll reply to them and we'll get a conversation going, kind of thing. And I think that's a really sort of useful way of using a raw video, is stick it on your stories. Everyone's sort of on the stories at the moment, watching what everyone else is doing. And if you create something that's interesting you, sort of regular enough on your stories, you're going to sort of build up a bit of a community. You're going to get people interested in what you're doing there. So I think that's a really good way of using raw video. Then when it comes to things like Facebook, a really good use of raw video on there, I think, is through live videos. So I've got a client again that does a lot of live videos for their sort of gym members that they've got. So they'll go on their Facebook lives sort of every afternoon, sort of, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, when your clients are maybe sort of sat at work a little bit bored and they see, oh, Liam's popped up with an Instagram Facebook live. And yeah, they'll just sit there and watch it. And again, it's just that sort of raw content, but it's really consumable because you're getting the timing right. You've kind of got an idea of what your clients want to see and when they want to see it. And yeah, you're just sort of, you're building up that sort of interest in what you're doing there.
That's true. I mean, I think there's that element of democratising it as well, that everybody has a phone in their hands, everybody can shoot a video and put it out there. So it's an element for like the people we work with, business owners and large companies. It gives that ability to try, to have a go, to jump in when maybe they wouldn't feel so much about it, and it's become more, accessible for most people to do that. What would you say a con would be of a raw video?
It's a difficult one because obviously there's so many benefits to raw video because it is so accessible. But I'd say that a con to raw video is, and I sort of look at this sometimes, and it sounds bad to say, but you'll go onto a business's Instagram page, for example, and maybe it's your local plumber or your local builder, and all of their content's kind of just phone videos. So I don't know, there's sort of like, you'll go onto a site or something and you'll see them film with their phone, and it's not sort of the nicest footage. And if it's sort of, I don't know, for example, showing off a finished project that they've just done, that's sort of when raw video can let you down a bit, because it's not that polished thing, and it's not that sort of nice way to show off sort of your work of art as such. Like everyone sort of creates a work of art at the end of the day. It's not in the best light it could be put into. Yeah, exactly. And I think that sort of video content's become so accessible to people because they've been able to sort of learn a little bit about it. They've got everyone's got a camera in their hands now, and a decent camera at that. But it's still sort of, there's not that education as such in terms of what makes a good video. So maybe there's like a little bit of shaking in the video, the angle's not quite right, the lighting's a little bit off, and it can sort of put people off buying the services if that's all they see when they go onto a feed.
It's true.
I don't think there's a real issue with if you've got a nice polished video and then you've got kind of a little bit of a raw one as well, because realistically everyone's going to understand that a lot of businesses aren't going to have the budget to do perfectly polished videos every single day of the week.
But it's showing that investment in the business, and they believe in it, they want to show. I mean, I can relate that with photography and doing professional headshots, and you see people using phones and things like that, you kind of, my heart sinks ever slightly inside going, this could be better, you could be doing this even better, and it could be translating you as a person even more and your personality across. And I completely agree with you, the idea of having that kind of raw content interspersed with things that are showing the best parts of the business and the best way to put people, but represent them in the best way they can.
Yeah, I definitely think that to me is probably the biggest con of it. Is that's the one that really sticks out to me, and that's the thing that I'd always say to people if they're sort of watching this video and they're thinking, I'm going to create loads of videos with my phone. I'd say that just if that's your plan to do it, then to just maybe sort of reach out to someone like me or you and say, can you just give us some tips, kind of thing, because that's kind of, if you've got a few tips to sort of get the most out of your phone, then that's going to help you a lot more than sort of creating that content but not really having a direction with it and not really knowing how to really get the best out of it.
Yeah, that's true. And with the Willcox Collective, we are more than happy to help and give advice and tips, and kind of, give a steering and things like that, and understanding your brand and things like that. So, what I would say is, for me, I think the pro of Raw is just having that ability to jump in, do it straight away. And I think the con is that you need to be making sure that when you're doing these kind of videos, that you are consistently improving what you're actually doing, instead of them being showing something that maybe not in the best light. So tell me, Oli, what would you say, I'm going to start the other way around now, what's a con of a polished video? What's the downside of having that, if you can think of any?
I think the biggest con still of sort of a polished video, so hiring a videographer, is obviously sort of the cost to a client, because you can sort of start to get into that sort of, you go down a bit of a rabbit hole. Once you create one, you want to create another.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big con, sort of money-wise. I think the other one is that if you don't know exactly what you want, then you're not necessarily going to be happy with your finished project. So I think that clients they either need to have a real clear vision of what they want to do, and they need to get that across to their videographer or their photographer, in terms of, look, this is what we want to cover, this is what we want to get out at the end of it, because otherwise you're going to have your videographer come along on a day, they're maybe not going to know exactly what they're doing when they arrive, and that's the thing that I hate the most, is when I arrive, and it's something that hasn't happened in years, but I remember when I was starting out, I'd show up to a shoot and I'd sort of say, so what's the plan? And it was partly my fault that would be the situation I'd get in, but the client also needs to give a bit of direction, as, look, we want to create videos for XYZ platforms, we want to show this off, we want to have this type of music, we want these types of shots, here's some examples, kind of thing. So I think that's a real con of polished videos, is that if you haven't got a bit of a plan, then that can be a bit of a downfall.
And part of us working with people like us is having that ability and that knowledge and experience to sit down, work on a brief together, have a complete plan in place, and knowing that this is kind of the kind of deliverables we're going to do, this is what the goal is at the end of the day, and working with highly skilled videographers is that's what you're going to get part of. It's not just about shooting, it's not just about turning up with a camera, it's about having a real shared goal and shared understanding in place. And say 50% of the work we do is mainly planning, making sure that everything happens and getting all the things there, because we're very dedicated in knowing we want to make sure we get, we delight our customers to the moon and back, and they are absolutely happy with us. We can't do that unless there's communication and there's a clear plan in place and expectations are met on both sides. So, I completely agree. There's an element of education, something I think we're going to touch in future videos, about how to work on a brief, how to put a brief together, and what expectations are, and things that one of the bugbears that I'm struggling with at the moment is hourly rates are quite frustrating, because we don't want to mislead you. We want to make sure that when we're on location, we're going to be there as long as it takes to get what we need to do. That's why an hourly rate is not so useful, because we don't want to be constrained with saying we'll do this in an hour and it'll be done, because that's not the kind of thing we do. So tell me what you think an ultimate benefit is of having a polished video.
So I think for me, sort of the benefit of it, and what I've seen with a lot of my clients, is that you can build a really strong brand image through sort of really nicely polished videos. So when you mix in, so for example, you've got a photographer that maybe captures 20 photos a month for you, kind of thing, and you've got sort of a few nicely polished sort of raw, authentic kind of, but polished also videos that are shot by a videographer, and then you've got that whole sort of, everything looks the same across it. Someone shows up to your social media or their website and everything looks the same, and it just really puts across that sort of, these guys are serious, these guys know what they're doing. They're quite a big company, because a lot of companies, previously you wouldn't have videos, you wouldn't have photos that are consistent unless you were a company of a massive size.
Well, you had a big budget.
People just 5 years ago, even when I started out, the only people that would sort of be doing consistent videos were big companies that had an in-house marketing department. Now most small, medium-sized businesses, they can have some sort of consistency and some sort of brand image across all of their content. They can all their stuff on LinkedIn, all their stuff on Instagram, all their stuff on Facebook, all looks the same, and someone can sort of see a video flash up and they'll instantly say, that's someone's building company, for example, that's their work, I'm going to share that with someone and say, look, these guys are the ones you need to look at.
Because it's growing consistency, and that consistency builds trust. And the more trust you have in the business, more clients you're going to, attract and people to work with you.
Absolutely.
So
it's that being recognisable, and that's an important thing to me. Is with all of my clients that I work with on a regular basis, it is it's building that brand. So having the animations that all look the same at the start of the video, having those nice colours that always look the same, that little pop of colour, and someone just scrolls on and like, oh yeah, those guys' videos, they're always the same. They always look really good. They're always really high quality. I'm going to go with those guys for whatever I need them to do. And I think that's the biggest pro, is that you just, it just looks amazing when you've got that polished video and you can do it consistently.
I completely agree. And I think when we discussed the idea of kind of raw video being rough, ready, going, I suppose there's an element of consistency with that. But we're still in an age where that is still deemed to not be as professional as a polished video can be. We're kind of moving into a strange realm of finding a happy medium in the middle where it's authentic and relatable, but still of a quality that can be trustworthy. So I think something that would be interesting to talk about is, what do you think maybe in the next year, 2 years, the trends are going to be? How we're going to develop and what our clients are going to demand of us, do you think?
I think it's sort of a trend that's already happening at the moment, and it's definitely sort of that regular creation of content, whether it's photography or video. I think we're going to see a lot more businesses. I mean, we're already seeing the larger businesses, sort of companies that are sort of 10 plus employees, we're already seeing those wanting to create regular content, sort of visual content. But I think we're soon going to start seeing sort of your sole traders and stuff that want to be creating that consistent content, because I think if the last year's taught us anything, it's the power of social media. I was never fully set on social media being the answer to any business in terms of growing it, but over the last year, I've seen my business grow massively through the use of LinkedIn and Instagram. I've seen a lot of my clients grow through the use of LinkedIn and Instagram, and I think by having that consistent content, that's where we're going to see a lot of businesses go, and that's sort of going to be the demand. They're not going to want the videos that sit on their website necessarily. They're not going to want sort of the longer form 5-minute videos that realistically not everyone's going to watch all the way through. They're going to want those sort of 20-30 second videos, and they're going to want sort of, I'd say even 10 a month for those potentially, just so they have that consistency of video content and that consistency of photo content as well. So I think that's where the trend's going. It's certainly been going that way for the last year, and I think that we're only going to see, as more businesses do it and as that trend continues, we're just going to see it become, first of all, every business is going to start doing it at a base level, and then we'll see those businesses start ramping up and sort of saying like, we need to do more content, to be honest, guys, because these guys are doing the same as what we're doing, and we've been doing it for a while.
To kind of level up. No, I completely agree with you in the sense that once with clients I've worked with, once they've started out video, they get the bug of it, they realise actually people are engaging and talking about it. The brand awareness is growing, even sales are being generated off the back of it because it's being present and visible and consistently going out there. So I think there's going to be definitely a building of, taking that first step with people to kind of get into video content, us being there for them. We definitely want to work with more businesses in Cambridge and surrounds, and having that service that we can provide that's, in the nicest possible way, holding their hand, making sure that they know what their achievement and how we can, achieve that by. I do think there's going to be an interesting trend of maybe, will videos get even shorter and shorter? Will we flip round and go completely opposite way where people want to sit and spend, 5-6 minutes watching something interesting? So it's, again, with engagement-wise, we used to talk about, when the best time to be on social media platforms is, in the morning when people are commuting, at lunchtime when they're having lunch, and the early evenings when they commute back. Who's still commuting? Are people still at home? So the content is going to be so much more increased because people are still now having this different life. They want to bring, the content is being, consumed at such a vast and quick rate. People want more of it. So that comes down to us as content creators to create this content that there is now a demand for. So there's even more of a voracious demand for our clients needing stuff to share us about it. So I think it's going to be very interesting for us to see where this leads. And are you excited?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've obviously just today, we've only talked about organic content. I mean, if we started talking about paid ads, we would go down a whole rabbit hole. So let's not talk too much about that.
We're just
today.
specifically talking about kind of non-paid work, things that are just put out there and things like that. But no, that's absolutely amazing. So tell us what you think. We'd love to know. What do you prefer? Do you prefer short, raw videos that look quite authentic, or do you prefer the more polished videos that have, you know, drone work and music and very different camera angles? And tell us what that makes you feel. Are you more likely to buy something that's more authentically raw, or do you think that you are more trustworthy of the brand if you see something that's higher quality of video? So do let us know in the comments below. Myself and Oli are very much here for you. If you have any video questions, we'd love to work with you on any upcoming projects. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you real soon.